Welcome back. So a major shift for South Africa's legal landscape. The Labour Court has officially gone digital. As of yesterday, all new cases must now be filed exclusively via the court online portal, ending the practice of physical submissions. This follows a directive issued in March by the Judge President of the Labour and the Labour Appeals Court, concluding a phased rollout that began last August. To unpack what this means for both employers and employees, we are now joined by Masuku, who is a senior associate at the employment law practice at Cliffe, Dekker, Hofmeyr. Very good morning to you. Thank you so much for making time for us. So our courts are actually catching up,
yes.
which is a good thing.
Yes.
Which is a good thing. So what does this mean? I know that there was phase one, where phase one was normally with the urgent matters, but now all cases before the Labour Court will have to go online with the submissions.
Yes, that is correct. So what started as an urgent application process that needed to be processed online, all papers needed to be submitted online. It moved slowly through the phase approach I've mentioned, and we're now sitting at a situation where all matters before the Labour Court need to be initiated online. So what litigants and legal practitioners will have to do is they need to register on the court online portal and make sure that all documents need to be filed through that system. Whoever the initiating person is, whether it be a legal practitioner, the applicant or such, needs to then ensure that all parties are invited to the specific case. This really reduces the administrative burden of having physical papers at the Labour Court, and parties are now looking at a very online process, very streamlined.
Yeah. So ordinarily you would have had somebody go to the court, physical papers, hand it into the registrar, and then you're going to get a case number. Now, how does all of that work? And also the having to inform the other litigants or stakeholders who are part of this case as well around this matter being enrolled?
So essentially, a party who's responsible or initiates the matter will have to invite all relevant parties through the court online portal. So if I'm a litigant and I start the process by filing a notice of motion, for example, in an application, I have to ensure that my case is my notice of motion is uploaded, I get my case number in due course, and then all parties who are relevant to the application are then invited to participate in the specific matter on court online. For, I suppose, lay litigants, or what is called in the directive in-person litigants who are not represented, there is a help desk that will be available at the Labour Court to assist them should they not know how to use the court online process, or if there are any matters that they need assistance with on the court online portal. There is also going to be a help desk which is available via Microsoft Teams, which parties can call into should they experience any difficulties with the court online portal.
So for that lay person or the person who's struggling with the online portal, would that person still have to come with the physical documents and then get the assistance at the help desk?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so that's the case. Okay, what does this then mean for the appeals process as well?
It's similarly, all appeal records, notice of appeal will also all be uploaded onto the court online portal, and Labour appeal court processes will follow the same process online.
And this would be with the supplementary documents as well?
That is correct.
What convenience does this then bring to the processing of these matters?
Well, it's hopeful that there will be a more speedy resolution of disputes. Obviously, in labour relations in South Africa, the primary goal is to have a speedy resolution of disputes. But unfortunately, due to various matters, the difficulty has been that there's been lots of backlogs, delays, shortages of court, insufficient judges to process cases. So this is really a step in the right direction to have a more streamlined process of having everything online. Hopefully documents won't get lost, processes are finalized more speedily.
Does this also mean that matters get to be heard online as well?
No, so matters will still be heard in physical court. There is provision in the Labour Court rules for an application in very specific circumstances if you would want to have a virtual hearing, but matters will still proceed in physical court.
Okay, and then for CCMA matters, what does this mean? Well,
the CCMA matters are slightly separate. So in the CCMA also has their own online submission portal, but matters are still heard physically. So what really happens in terms of CCMA matters in the Labour Court is if you want to challenge an award that's issued out of the CCMA, you then take it on what we call review to the Labour Court. what this then means for the CCMA is that they also now need to so-called come to the party and upload all those records of proceedings when an award is challenged on the court online process. This already started earlier in the year, where review applications themselves were now being on the court online process before all cases. So there needs to be a kind of uploading online.
Yeah. So that will only happen after the entire matter has been processed by the CCMA. Then the documents themselves, those documents would need to be uploaded by CCMA itself. What about the litigant? What's expected from them?
The litigant, as I mentioned up front, will have to ensure that once they file their review application in this particular circumstance in the Labour Court, they notify the CCMA that this review has been filed, and the CCMA will then have to attend to the uploading of the documents and the arbitration recordings onto court online. The registrar of the Labour Court will then notify the other party or the applicant party that these documents and recordings have been uploaded. And once that has happened, they must prepare what is called a record of arbitration proceedings to persist with their review application.
Then comes the other one. In this digital era, we know of cyber attacks. What is known about the firewalls in the system to ensure that the documents that we were speaking about earlier on don't get lost in the system and there's no interference? What assurance has been given?
Well, one would hope, obviously, there have been cases in the past through the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development where there have been ransomware attacks. And the first fine that the information regulator ever issued obviously was to the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development. So one would hope that with this broadening of the court online in the digital era there, those teething pains that have existed in the past have been resolved and that litigants can be assured that whatever information that they put online is secure.
Yeah, and then the public having access to their documents, how does it work?
Well, generally, you have to be invited to a case on court online. So unless you are a party to the proceedings, you wouldn't necessarily have an application, but you can apply to have access to certain documents. But it is they try to keep it quite secure in that manner. They
try to keep it quite secure. Thank you so much for that, Lee. Just quickly as we wrap up, what advice would you want to give people who want to use the system? Or who will be using the system, because actually now it's a directive?
I think get familiar. The Labour Court rules themselves haven't changed. I say haven't changed. There were a new set of Labour Court rules that came into effect in July last year. But the processes themselves haven't changed. It's just a matter of everything needing to be done online. So if you're unfamiliar, you require assistance, make use of the available assistance that the court has put in process to get familiar with the process, because we are moving on the train and the train is going, so we need to do so.
And you must have data.
Yes, correct.
Thank you so much.